Hey, football fans, welcome back to another episode of Lions Latest, the show where we gather around to talk about the greatest team in the NFL, the Detroit Lions. I'm your host, Bryan Hanes, and we have some updates from the game and some other stuff to go into, so let's just jump straight into the video. Starting off, though, happy Victory Monday, Lions fans. Woohoo! Round of applause. Everyone, take a deep breath. The game against Green Bay was just shaking off the rust. Nothing to be worried about, guys. We're starting off with the game. What went well? I was going to say what didn't go well, but there wasn't a whole lot that didn't go well. So we had a great game. Starting off with the Lions, we beat the Chicago Bears 52-21 after a week one where it looked like we weren't going to score that many points at all this season. Our offense exploded for a total of 511 total yards, including 177 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. Holy moly, guys. Former coordinator Ben Johnson's return to Detroit as the new head coach for the Chicago Bears really marked a dominant point in our season. Honestly, we beat them, and this was a very important win, not just because of our record, but morale. Beating the old offensive coordinator, this was kind of showing him we don't need you to succeed. This was what that game really meant, and so winning it was really huge for just the team in general, right? It wasn't just about getting the win, it was about proving it to themselves that they could do it without this guy. And we did. We did in a very big fashion. Not just our offense, though, our defense was also able to force 2 turnovers, recorded 4 sacks after having 0 last week, and was able to contain Caleb Williams, which didn't allow him to move outside the pocket and extend plays like he normally does. He had a few instances, but for the most part, we kept him in the pocket. We forced him to make stuff happen in his pocket, which caused a couple turnovers, some mistakes, some overthrown balls, stuff like that. Just like I said would happen, you apply the pressure, he will get pressured. In the first quarter, we could see that there wasn't a lot of quarterback pressure being applied, and he was able to actually move the ball. Once we started to get in his face a little more, dial up some blitzes, you could really tell that he was having a harder time making decisions back there. And the big thing about this game was that our O-line was on the same page. Speaking of the pocket, Jared was finally given time this game to make reads to his correct targets. And because of this, the running game was also allowed to be established. Despite Chicago's good running defense, that they actually put up a good fight in the first half, but they were just getting tired being on the field so dang much. The O-line looked fantastic. I was very impressed with the changes we made, the tweaks we made to fix stuff. And, John Morton did say that everything was fixed. They addressed everything and everything was fixed. And you can go, sure, everything got fixed that quickly. All right, whatever you say, man. But turns out he wasn't just exaggerating. We looked like a whole different team during this game, and I was very excited. I was very hype. The Bears defense was really just unable to stop our offense, particularly struggling with coverage against guys like St. Brown and JMO, which no duh, right? And then we finally saw John Morton's offense work, using guys downfield as distractions, give them a few big plays, and then you're going to have defensive back safeties all over them. And that's going to free up the passing games to guys like Brock Wright and Khalif Raymond, who ended up having a pretty solid impact on this game once they were able to get open and get some work done on their own. Brock Wright even getting a touchdown. The Lions 1-1 will look to can carry this momentum into week 3 against the Baltimore Ravens, which we need. We really need. Brian Branch literally said in the locker room after he got his game ball, he goes, "Hey, let's not get too excited. We still got to face Baltimore next Monday." He's got a very good point. That is going to be a tough game to go against, and we're going to have to play just like we did today, if not better, to beat the Ravens. Um, some stuff that happened that wasn't too great. Let's talk about that real quick. And to be honest with you guys, it was just injuries. So during garbage time, safety Brian Branch appeared to get his leg whipped by teammate Jack Campbell. He slowly made his way off the field into the locker room. There doesn't appear to be any reason for concern. However, because Branch told reporters after the game that it was just cramps he was dealing with, that gives me some hope, because the Lions never put an injured player up on the podium. So that's telling me that it's either something minor or he is just dealing with those cramps, like he said. Secondly, Marcus Davenport. Whoa, Marcus Davenport on an injury report. Who would have thought? The Lions defensive end left the Bears game on 2 different occasions. I remember the one. In the first half, Davenport suffered an ankle injury, went into the locker room, was listed as questionable, but then he returned, only to suffer a shoulder injury while he records his first sack of the game. He finally gets a sack, guys, and he just doesn't get up. I remember looking over and just going, you got to be kidding me. Of course. He was then again listed as questionable, and he again eventually returned to the lineup. After the game, though, Davenport was reportedly spotted with an ice shoulder and declined to comment on his condition. Coach Dan Campbell simply said the team wouldn't know more until this week, so we're just going to have to wait and see to what they say. I'll be honest, Al-Qadim Muhammad came in and honestly did a fantastic job at filling the role. He even had a sack of his own. But again, it's all about depth, right? Because then if Al-Qadim Muhammad gets injured, who's up next? Watching Zadarius Smith play with the Eagles yesterday was just like we could have had him moment, right? I think the biggest part of this game that really, out of all the great things we did, the one good thing we did that we didn't do that good was pass rush. In the second half, yeah, we were finally getting home. Their O-line was tired. They were out there too long. But we just couldn't really get home to Caleb Williams enough in the first half. And I think that's something we're going to absolutely have to work on. Hutch just looked like he was getting babied for a lot of the plays. I mean, Davenport was getting thrown into the turf almost every play. It just seemed like that was one of our missing pieces. Although I will say, and I'll give him his flowers, Tyleek Williams, while he didn't have a sack, had 2 batted down balls to create like third down situations, which we were able to take something away out of it. So good job, Rook. I appreciate that. Let's get a sack next game, but I do appreciate that. And then finally, Hutchinson appeared to be in a significant amount of discomfort after taking a chop block in the second half. He finished the game, though, until the Lions pulled their starters, and he spoke with reporters after the game. No update was given on his condition, but he was up and moving on his own, just a little tender. I think he'll be fine. I don't think that's anything too bad to worry about. But that being said, we're going to move into our second topic of the day. Let me know what you guys thought about the game, what stood out the most to you. So some player highlights I wanted to go over. Brian Branch is the first one. Holy crap, Brian Branch, have yourself a game. 6 solo tackles. He had a sack on a safety blitz and a forced fumble on a separate play. Woo! Buddy had a heck of a game. You could see he was just always in the right spot to make a play. The forced fumble was a total momentum killer for the Bears, and the sack that happened later on was just piled on. Like, Brian Branch was a good part of this reason for this game, that there were situations where, okay, the Bears are starting to bring it back in there. The Bears are starting to come down the field. And then Brian Branch would do something to just completely kill that momentum. Absolutely amazing. And even when he wasn't making the crazy stat flashy plays like sacks or forced fumbles, he was just always in the right position to make a play on somebody. You got to love it. When he went down for a little bit in the game, I freaked out because he honestly was just, he was player of the game on defense. He was fantastic, but hopefully he gets better. Hopefully it's nothing too bad, and hopefully we continue to see that kind of play style against the Ravens. St. Brown, oh my gosh, talk about having a comeback week. 9 catches for 115 yards, 12.8 on average, and 3 touchdowns. Even got some rushing attempts. I'll throw that in there too. This was the St. Brown that we missed against the Packers last week. Unguardable, unbeatable. When he wasn't catching the ball, when he wasn't getting touchdowns, he was laying out blocks for his runners and screens for his receivers and tight ends. Dude is just a team player, and we've known this about St. Brown. But it's one to know it, and then 2 to see it in the game and go, oh my gosh, this guy is just a selfless player. Like, he's just laying it out for all of his teammates. It's awesome to see. And then Jared Goff, finally, the game Jared needed. Thanks to the O-line fixing some of those errors and getting on the same page, Jared had an 82.1 completion rate, 334 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a rating of 156. Wow. What else do you say, guys? What else do you say about a performance like this? Jared Goff just came in and played. What a man. What a monster. Had an awesome game, and I put the whole O-line in here as well to the kind of MVP stuff because Jared wouldn't have done this without the O-line. So you got to give flowers to both sides of this offense here. It was an absolutely crazy turnaround, and I'm just keep doing this every week, guys. Let's just keep hanging 50 burgers on every team's head, and I think we'll be just fine this year. I think the doubters will have to just go find some other team to worry about. But that's what I saw. Was there a player that you guys saw especially jump out and do something that deserves to put them here? I don't necessarily think our rushing game did anything crazy, but let me know what you guys think. We're going to move to our third topic where we're talking about the fantasy points from some of these crazy players. So St. Brown starting off had a 39.2 point week after an 8.5 point week. His yards after catch game was nuts. what else do you say about it? He was just always open in the end zone. He routed up every corner that covered him. He's a monster. And his yards after catch. I mean, he'd get a catch and then go for another 15, 20 yards. Just point and a half. He's a monster. I was really excited to see this from him. His week 1 performance got me a little worried, especially with how the passing game was going and the O-line was going. But I think the O-line fixing their mistakes honestly just allowed every Lions player to start succeeding. And I think St. Brown was the first one we really saw almost scratching 40 points. I would say that's succeeding. Jamison Williams, 18.8 points after having a 6.6 game. Thanks to that long touchdown from Goff, JMO got going in fantasy. But every few plays, he just seemed to be open, right? If Goff got that other deep go route ball down to him, it would have been another touchdown. He would have been in the mid to high 20s, and then we would have really started to see something going. But don't get it twisted. I guarantee we are going to see that performance at some point this year where he does just have like 3 or 4 catches, but ends up having almost 30 fantasy points. That don't say it won't happen, and don't say I didn't tell you, because I have a feeling that we eventually are going to get that game. And then finally, Goff, 34 points after a 10.9 game. But if you're in bonus leagues, he was well into the 40s at this point. Goff was just finally, and we've said this, given the time to make the reads he needed to make. The game against the Packers, he was a check down Charlie. He was just checking down to his running backs every single play, and it didn't really allow us to have a chance on offense. But this game, he was able to find his playmakers, and it was insane. It really shows why he is a top 10 fantasy quarterback. He just, dude, I mean, he doesn't run. He doesn't get those points on his legs like guys like Hurts, Lamar, Josh Allen. But then he just goes and just does what the quarterback is supposed to do and just throws balls to his playmakers and scores touchdowns. I mean, how could you be mad at it? He's doing what a pocket passer is supposed to do, and he's doing it the best way the pocket passer could possibly do it. His reads this game were just fantastic. If you're throwing 5 touchdowns, you're throwing a bunch of deep balls, and not a single one of your passes are getting intercepted, then you are making fantastic, if not perfect, reads. Keep an eye out for him, guys. If he's your backup, consider putting him in first, because he really just had a what's up kind of game. And then finally, Jahmyr Gibbs. He wasn't on the MVP list, but I think he was worth noting for this. He had 19.4 points after having a 15-point game last week, so he wasn't terrible in either week, but he had less receptions this week. What was different was he also had a touchdown and some more rushing yards. My bet on passing being more prevalent with this guy was right, but it slowed down this game due to the fact that we were actually allowed to open up the rushing game more, and we weren't checking it down to him every single game. I think he had 3 receptions this game and like 10 the week before, so you could definitely see there was a difference in how the offense was operating. And we haven't seen this big breakout game from him yet where he drops 30, 40 points, but I have a feeling it's coming soon. Little things at a time, guys. We got the passing game going. Now let's let the 2-headed monster, let's let Gibbs and Monty start to go crazy. Preferably Gibbs if you guys are Gibbs fantasy owners, but you know what I mean. Let me know what you guys think. I think that was a great showing. I think Lions defense did a great job too, but I'm not going to highlight a fantasy defense. And we're going to move to our final topic. Just talking about some comments. Starting with Superman 24. He says, I think we will get Hutch signed eventually. Maybe Brad is waiting to see how good he performs this year because of the injury from last year. I said before that they may be waiting for the increase in salary cap to know how much we can pay him. But if John Morton does not bring his A game this week, he's going to have to worry. A lot of fans and will get a ton of hate. If it gets too bad, I can see MCDC taking over play calling duties just like he did with Anthony Lynn a few years ago. So let's dissect this. Hutch getting signed. Well, Hutch didn't have a fantastic game against the Bears. He was fine. He had some pressures. I think he eventually got a sack or a half sack, but it wasn't anything crazy, and it definitely wasn't what we're going to end up paying him for, right? That kind of performance. So yeah, waiting might be good at this point. Maybe this injury is impacting us more than the media let on with the whole Hutch rule in camp and stuff. But yeah, maybe waiting is a good thing. Let's not wait too long, but let's kind of gauge where he's at after the injury and see if he is worth that bag he's going to be asking for. And then with John Morton, I think honestly he proved himself this game. He had a way better play call scheme. I think it was, again, due in turn to the fact that we cleaned up a lot of internal stuff, line stuff, trench stuff. But yeah, John Morton looked a lot better. I don't think MCDC is going to have to take over for him anytime soon, as long as we just keep seeing this. And Lions fans can take a deep breath. don't have to hate this week. Thank you so much for your comment, Superman24. We're moving on to Stephen Williams. They say the Lions fans are suffering from PTSD. The negativity needs to stop. Support your team. And now I know what this is from. It's because I was getting a little worried after the Packers lost. But I want to make something very clear, Stephen. I'm not hating on my team. I support my team. I support the Lions, sometimes to a fault. So it's not a matter of that. If you are a Lions fan and you have been a Lions fan, you know we are not allowed to have nice things. Something wrong always happens. It's almost like it's destiny, right? So I am not hating. I am not mad. I support my team. The negativity comes from a place of caution, um, because I've watched the team get close and fall, or have a season where we're just not ever had a chance to even compete. I'm just cautious, but I don't hate my team. Maybe there is a little PTSD, but I don't hate my team. I love my team. I support my team. Sometimes I over support my players. Just wanted to put that in there. But thank you for your comment anyway, Stephen Williams. I will continue to be positive, and we will try to fix up that negativity here. With that being said, we are out of time today. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Lions Latest. If you made it to this point in the video, tell me what players stood out specifically to you that weren't on my list and why they did so well. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, smash the bell so you never miss a single video here. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video.